All right, we're going to talk today about how everyday gym goer whose primary goal is health should train with the same process as an elite athlete, and how increasing relative intensity is the key to long-term health. We're going to look at this through a behavioral science approach, which is inherently subjective. And the reason we're going to do that is because when we look at what we should or shouldn't do, there's a difference between academia and the real world. In academia, we often work in controlled settings, whereas in the real world, we have an uncontrolled setting. We are not able to isolate variables in the real world. A lot of variables are correlated with each other. And so when we do one thing, as a result, we may or may not do something else. That doesn't happen in academia. The goal is to look at whether something has an effect or not, and we're always looking at them one variable at a time. And so when we're in an academic setting, we're often coming up with optimal solutions. We are trying to find out what works best. But in the real world, we're looking for practical solutions. We are looking at what is actually going to make an impact when you take all of these different factors into account. In the real world, we work with certain constraints. The biggest constraints that we have are time, energy, and motivation. We don't have unlimited time to carry out any exercise program. We don't have unlimited energy, and we don't have unlimited motivation. Now, when we look at these three, two of them don't really hold water. The first being time. It doesn't take that much time to be dedicated to an exercise program. We're going to be working 4 to 6 hours a week. That's the typical CrossFit prescription. That's not a big chunk of your time in terms of total percentage of time you have in a week. So it's usually not lack of time. People may use that as a reason why they're not going to the gym, but that's usually not the reason. Second is energy. Now, working out gives you more energy. Energy is closely related with motivation. There are some things I have a ton of energy to do, and a lot of things I don't have any energy to do. So our third one is motivation. There are certain healthy habits that I just don't want to do. There are certain unhealthy habits that I don't want to give up. So the question becomes, how do you get people to give up those unhealthy habits? How do you get them to add in healthy habits? When we're looking at how do we increase people's motivation, we need to look at these two motivation factors. One is our fun to harm ratio. Two is our benefit to misery ratio. It's not enough just to decide whether something is good or bad for us. We have to look at how much enjoyment do I get from that versus how harmful is it, and how much benefit do I get from it versus how miserable is it going to be to add that into my lifestyle. Some things have a very high fun to harm ratio, meaning I get a lot of joy out of it and it doesn't have that much of an impact on my health. Those are the things that we want to give up last. We want to start by looking at what is not very fun and what is very harmful and get rid of those. We want to look at what things am I going to get a ton of benefit from and doesn't create that much misery to do. Now, when we're looking at these two things and we're thinking about, do we take something out or do we add something in? First, we should focus on what to do instead of what not to do. It's much easier to get someone to add something into their day than to take something out. Particularly when they've been doing something for a long time and they enjoy it. You can talk all day long about how harmful it is. You're not going to get them to give that up very easily. But you will much more quickly get them to add something in that's going to provide them benefit. Now, the thing that has the highest benefit to misery ratio is exercise. When done correctly, the misery should be pretty low. If we look at relative intensity, meaning I measure my workout, I try to improve upon that by a very small amount. Very small, gradual progression. Getting slightly out of my comfort zone, the misery should not be very high. You're only trying to beat your previous performance, even if it's 1 second, even if it's 1 pound or 1 rep. Your goal is not to leave the gym barely able to walk and having to crawl to the car. So the misery should be low. If the misery from that workout is high, you're doing it wrong. The benefits of exercise are very high. So it creates a high benefit to misery ratio. This is the thing that is easiest to get people to add into their day. Move more, move better, and people start seeing the results right away. When we look at the benefits of exercise, we need to look at more than just the direct benefits of exercise. We need to look at the second and further order effects that happen because of exercise. When we add in exercise to our day, it changes other behaviors that we perform. We're going to come back to this controlled versus uncontrolled environment. In the real world, I add in exercise at the end of my workday. I'm going to go home and I'm going to behave differently than I would have had I gone directly home from work. Now, our first order benefit from exercise is improved performance. This one is obvious. I come into the gym, I perform a workout. In the future, I can perform that workout better. And performance is the building block of health. CrossFit defines health as work capacity across broad time, modal, and age domains. Without performance, you don't have health. Your performance in the gym is a leading indicator of what your results are going to be at the doctor's office. If my fitness decreases, I may not see the difference in my health right away, but I'm going to see it eventually. Likewise, if my fitness improves, it may not be the next visit that I see those benefits, but down the road, I'm going to see an improvement in my traditional health markers. We have clients, and we've taken many through this process, that come in, they're at a very low work capacity. In the next 1 to 2 years, their doctors are asking them what they changed in their day for their results to improve this much. One of our clients came in as part of our wellness level. She was at the very first rank. By the time she made it to the third rank, her LDL went from 158 down to 99. Now, that didn't happen overnight. It happened gradually. And eventually she went from being warned that she's going to be on cholesterol medication to her doctor saying that everything is perfect. So without performance, you don't have health. If you can't walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded, if you're not able to lift the dog food into your shopping cart and put it away at home, you cannot call yourself healthy. Now, the second and further order impacts are often greater than just this direct benefit. They support each other, and as we improve other behaviors, our performance improves as well. So the pursuit of performance leads to elimination of unhealthy habits and the addition of healthy habits. And I'm going to give you an example to demonstrate this. I want you to think of the workout Fran. 21, 15, 9, thrusters at 95 pounds for men, 65 for women, and pull-ups. Let's say you have a PR of 5 minutes. Your goal is to improve upon that performance. This is what we mean by increasing relative intensity. We started off with 5 minutes as our PR. We're going to increase the intensity. We're going to shoot for 455. Before we go into exactly how this changes your behavior, we're going to touch on a point that a lot of people that have been involved in CrossFit know, and that is the most important adaptation of CrossFit happens in the mind. The training process looks a lot like cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, that is a totally separate topic for discussion, but you're going to see some similar elements here. When you look at the workout the night before, you're going to go through what looks a lot like the 5 stages of grief. Now, everyone's going to feel these emotions with different intensity. You might feel very little of one, you might feel more of another, but the process looks similar for most people. The first one is denial. You see Fran the next day on the board, you think that must not be the workout. You look at it, say there's no way that's what it is, that must be a joke. You remember what Fran felt like last time when you did it at in 5 minutes. So you're denying that you're going to have to go through that again. After denial, you feel anger. You're cursing out the programmer. You're swearing at them for programming Fran on a Monday after the weekend. You got to come back in after relaxing and come in and do a workout like Fran. Then you get to bargaining. You start making deals with yourself. You start telling yourself, maybe if I don't go 455, I can do a more casual Fran. And I'm going to add in some extra work afterwards. I'm going to do this or that. But eventually, you don't take that deal with yourself. You move on. Then we get to depression. You're miserable that you're going to have to go through that experience. And eventually, you end up at acceptance. You accept that in order for me to get fitter, I am going to have to increase the intensity of my workout. And now you move on to, what do I need to do to complete Fran in 455? And as you're thinking about it, you're going to come up with ways to make that 450 Fran suck less. So because that Fran is now top of mind, after you look at the workout the night before and you're laying in bed, you're going to put the phone down. You're going to understand the consequences of a poor night of sleep, because you don't want to do a PR Fran with a poor night of sleep. It's going to make Fran suck a whole lot less. So if you have accepted that you're doing a 455 Fran, you're going to find it easier to turn the TV off, to put the phone down, and go to bed. Now the next day, your coworkers invite you out to lunch. You are going to eat better than you would have if you had not committed to increasing the intensity of your workout. When your friends want to go out for Taco Tuesday and pound some margaritas in the middle of the day, you're going to be thinking about doing a 455 Fran with a belly full of carne asada and sugary alcohol. And you're going to say no. And as you go through the day, you're going to remember that feeling in your lungs of that burn, the taste of iron. And you're going to think, how do I get rid of that? Well, one way is to have a little bit more water. When you do Fran, it feels like you're choking on sand. Your mouth is dry, it's uncomfortable. So you're going to be hydrated. Now, you may not do all three. What you're going to do is you're going to eliminate the one that has the lowest fun to harm ratio. The one that you enjoy the least is what you get rid of, trying to make Fran suck less. So you give yourself these small stepping stones to change your behavior in the pursuit of performance. You're not jumping in both feet into the river trying to add a cold plunge, add a sauna, add all these extra things. You're starting off with eliminating the things that you get the least joy for how harmful they are. And then as your performance improves, you're going to get rid of more and more. Next time, when I'm trying to go from a 455 Fran to a 450 Fran, let's say that sleep was the one that I gave up, but I really like those tacos and margaritas. Well, next time, I'm going to sleep better, and I'm going to cut down one of those two. I'm going to cut out the margarita, or I'm going to cut out the tacos. As I get faster and faster at Fran, I'm going to eliminate more and more of these things out of there because it's necessary to further improve performance. But we're not doing that all at one time. We're not trying to go from a lifestyle where I do mostly what I want to living like a monk in one day. We are starting off by measuring performance, trying to beat it, and out of necessity, eliminating some poor habits that are holding you back from further increasing your performance. Eventually, you get to a point where you've given up most of the things that are holding you back. And now you start to add things that are going to improve your performance, starting with whatever has the highest benefit to misery ratio. One of those things may be a sauna. You may enjoy being in the sauna, so you're going to add in some sauna time. You might add that before you go to bed so that you sleep a little better. And you're slowly going to add these things in Starting with the highest benefit to misery ratio, working your way down the list, adding more and more things that are going to improve your performance. The mechanism for how chasing performance improves these habits is very simple. Performance turns long-term consequences or benefits into short-term consequences or benefits. One of the hardest things it is to do as a human is to delay gratification. But if your focus is on performance, there is no need to delay gratification. That's an inherently difficult thing for us to do. Performance is something that can be measured in the short term. I'm measuring my performance every time I go into the gym. So when my focus is on the performance, those unhealthy habits that are fun now and I don't pay the price until later, now have short-term consequences to them. If I got to come in and hit a PR Fran, I've got a short-term consequence to that poor night of sleep. Now, usually we don't turn the TV or the phone off because the fun is right now and the harm isn't until later. But if I know I got to go in and hit a PR Fran, now the fun is now and the pain that I'm going to feel from that is much, much shorter. Same thing with the food, same thing with the water. You can get by with 1 day, 2 days, even a few weeks of bad eating, but it catches up to you. But by looking at your performance, trying to improve it, you now pay the price right away. And so rather than trying to overcome these natural human behaviors, we're going to take advantage of them. And we're going to take advantage of them the exact same way a casino does. A casino gets people hooked on the penny slots. You make a small bet, you get a small reward when you win, and you feel good afterwards. And then you get hooked on that feeling. You get hooked on that constant reward system. That's what performance can do for you. You get hooked on that feeling of sleeping well, eating well, drinking water, all of these other things. You're rewarded for it right away. You're rewarded when you're a second quicker. You're rewarded when you add a pound to the bar. And now you can hijack that human reward system to get yourself to do all of these things that you don't really want to do by giving yourself a short-term benefit for performing them. What's key to remember is that humans are not racehorses. And this is something that a lot of the studies and a lot of academia miss. With a racehorse, you're in total control. You determine what they eat, you determine how they perform, you determine everything. But humans aren't like that. When you are coaching humans, you have to start with motivation. You have to convince them that it's worth doing. And if you put your priority on performance, all of these other behaviors will fall into line. CrossFit is built on the idea that needs vary by degree, not kind. The needs of the Olympic athlete and the needs of your grandma are the same, but it goes deeper than that. Whether you are an everyday gym goer training just to improve your health, or whether you are trying to master your sport, the process is also the same. The things that lead to elite athletic performance are the same things that are going to lead to great health. First, because of the direct benefits of exercise, but second, because of what pursuing performance will do for all of your other habits.